Little louder, please. Hello, yes. Okay. So, welcome to AISS. And I think you're starting off with a bang with this ransomware workshop here. All of you who are attending this and the previous sessions and the other excellent sessions that you will be attending tomorrow, please do not miss them. AISS sessions. And today's one brought to us by the wonderful team at Trellix. So we have with us Arvind Sharma, Abhishek Rai, Avdut Vishwas, and also Kritika Motwani. Can you all come on the stage, please, once? Everyone who will be connecting with you and also who will be in touch with you for your help. Okay. So Trellix, really this workshop brought to you. It's a very important one because ransomware. So a little bit about myself. I'm Sriram, Dr. Sriram Birudavolu. I head DSCI's Cybersecurity Center of Excellence at Hyderabad. Okay, we incubate about 40 cybersecurity startups and we do a number of programs out there in that ecosystem and also international programs and all. My team is here. A few of them can raise your hands, that's all. Please feel free to get in touch with us. We're just hoping that we will conduct such workshops there also. Okay, so now over to this whole ransomware. Ransomware is one of the biggest threats. And I will not hijack their show in giving out many of the details and all, but the point is that it is a major nightmare for enterprises today because it engages in a double whammy or triple whammy, whatever you call it. That means the guy who's infiltrated the system, the attacker, that fellow will first of all siphon off all the data. And so whether you paid money later or not paid money, he already has your data and then he will sell them. This second thing is that he'll knock off all the backup DR sites over a period of time, and then one fine day, boom, kaboom, he will launch the ransomware attack. And thereafter, you're left helpless, and after that, there are a series of things that you'll have to contend with, ranging from giving explanations, I mean certain guidelines, not guidelines, sorry, I keep using that word, it's certain directives, it's mandated. You have to report within 6 hours, to dealing with your cyber insurance players, to the any loss of personal data is there, then DPDP Act kicks in, and also the fact that your reputation damage. That means the ongoing operations you need to get it up, and also prevent. You'll have to do damage control with the media and all, and also your existing contracts or the future customers. It's going to have very widespread ramifications all across. In fact, companies have been shut down after ransomware attacks or have taken severe hits. Okay, so with this lovely background, what we are going to do is that how do we prevent ourselves from all these nightmares? The best way is to prepare for it. So forewarned is forearmed, and preparation is the best cure. So that is the thing. And should it still happen, then how do you deal with it and the incident response and all these kinds of things. So here, this workshop will cover all that. And then Abhishek or Arvind can help us define what you're going to do in this workshop. With that, I'll sign out, and I would much like to participate in the workshop myself as well. Please make the best of it. I see that the house is full. Very good. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. So, my name is Arvind Sharma, and you've already met the other speakers for today's workshop, right? So, I'm a solution architect here at Trellix, and we've got 2 solution engineers from Trellix as well today to run the workshop. Straight away getting into the agenda, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about state of ransomware, right? Spend a little time on that, and then we straight away get into the tabletop exercise. So if you see on your table, you would have a worksheet, right? And we're going to talk about various phases of ransomware and what could be your strategy around that, right? What are the possible approach that you can take around each and every phase of that cyber kill chain. So when we talk about ransomware, mostly we talk about ransomware when we see the blue screen, right, which has a message, I've encrypted your data, blah, 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 give me your money, right? So any guesses, wild guesses? How much time on an average does it take from an initial access stage, the very first stage of a cyber kill chain, to that blue screen? When you get that message, it's got encrypted, I have your data, give me your money. How much time on an average does it take?
3 months, more than a year.
More than a year? 3 months?
6 months.
6 months? You're all correct. It takes, so there was a report that came in. They say it takes at least 3 days and up to 3 months for a ransomware to get into your organization. So from very first initial access, when the attacker doesn't even know what your organization is into, right? Because nowadays, it's a ransomware as a service. It's not ransomware. It's ransomware as a service. It's a business. It's a very serious business, right? So if they want to target somebody, we start with initial access, and then we're going to talk about all this, right? So the anatomy of ransomware. So Avdot and Abhishek would talk about that. And then finally, we'll get into the architecture, a sample architecture that you can probably leverage to protect your organization against ransomware. You will never have a silver bullet against ransomware. You'll never have that, right? But there can be an architecture which makes your security posture very, very strong. So we're going to talk about that, and finally, we'll open up to Q&A, right? So, and we would love to hear from you if you have any questions around our session. So let me straight away jump into the state of ransomware. I'm going to show you some data. So, but before I get into the data, where did we get this data from, right? So Trellix as a company, if you guys don't know, right, there were two large organizations, McAfee Enterprise and FireEye. They merged a couple of years back, and that's how Trellix as an entity was made, right? So beginning of last year, Trellix was created after the merger of McAfee Enterprise and FireEye. Now both McAfee and FireEye together, they were giving endpoint security solution, network security, cloud security, blah, blah, blah. All the solutions that they were giving, they acted like a sensor for us. They used to give us telemetry data of all the threats those devices, those solutions are seeing. And so we still keep on getting that data. So this data that we're getting, right, so if you look here, we get data, oh sorry, the pointer doesn't work, the data either from our telemetry detections or from the industry event. So if you see so we have an advanced research center which looks at all this data or what's happening on the dark web. So if there are references of events happening for certain customers, certain business sectors, we captured that data. So we captured all this data, and this report came out from Trellix in Q3. We got this report which talks about the threat landscape in Asia and including India. And if we talk about the number one target in Q2, Q3 that we as Trellix saw, right, using our telemetry data and the data from the industry events, we saw India was number one targeted country. Is anyone surprised with that?
No.
We are growing. We are growing. You know our GDP is growing. And when a country is growing, there would be a biggest target. Every country which is growing would be a target. Why? Because they know you can pay. Ransomware is a business, right? They want money. They won't target somebody who cannot pay. So if a country is growing, they will be targeted. So India, no surprise, is getting targeted. Obviously, money is one side. You also know there are political angles also to it, but I'm keeping that aside, right? I'm sticking to the business, sticking to the enterprise. I understand there are state-sponsored attacks. We keep on hearing about them, but I'm keeping that outside of today's discussion. I'm going to focus on the probably something that is relevant to you as a customer as well, right? So that was target. Now, which particular ransomware is targeting these countries the most? In last 6 months, is there anyone in this room who's not heard about Lockbit? If you've heard about ransomware, you've heard about Lockbit. And Lockbit is a ransomware as a service. So I've been talking about ransomware as a service, but what does that mean? So ransomware was, there's an attacker who created something, attacked your organization specifically, and then say, give me your money. Ransomware as a service is, hey, do you want to target someone? Come to me. I'll attack them for you. Right? Because I've got their credentials, I've got their data, I have already done the initial data gathering, I've done the reconnaissance, I know that customer, I can do all this for you. Right? That's ransomware as a service. Right? So by far the number one is Lockbit that I've seen. And so I travel across APJ. So I kept on meeting a lot of customers in the last 6 months, 9 months, when Lockbit 3.0 really came up. In one of the countries, Indonesia, there was a bank that got hit by Lockbit. And it is okay to be the first victim. It's never okay to be the second or third. If you're first, okay, there's a learning curve, right? You tried your best to protect yourself or your infrastructure. But if you are the second or third, then you've not learned from the previous victims. And the previous victims are around you, then you really had a chance to learn and you could not, right? It's not only about banking, it's about every business sector. Now business sectors are very close, right? The CEOs talk to CEOs, the CISOs talk to CISOs, right? They're all talking to each other, they're sharing information, right? There is an argument, a discussion always going on, right? So that information is already there. So if the information is already there, being a second or a third victim is a problem. So how do we make sure we are not the second or the third? Because they might, if today is Lockbit, tomorrow it could be somebody else who might bring in a patient 1 or a victim 1 in India. How do we make sure that we are not victim 2, 3? So we're going to talk about that also a little later. Some more data, right? How relevant is this discussion for you? Right? You could be from the software industry, financial industry, government. How important is this discussion for you? I've had a lot of ransomware discussions with my customers, and I've heard about, hey, we had a particular endpoint solution, we had a particular firewall, we had a particular sandbox, and it failed against a ransomware attack. If you had siloed approaches against ransomware, irrespective of which business sector you are, your approach is not correct. It's not complete. Right? So we're going to talk about that also in coming. And finally, I'm going to talk about, so this is, again, different countries also, which are the attackers, right? The ones which are targeting, right? So who are those threat actors which are targeting? This whole report is there. It's an open report. You can Google, search for it, Trellix Threat Landscape Q3. You Google it, you'll find this information, right? So this is not only the Trellix related data, but data from the industry detections that have happened, right? So this report is using that particular data. So please, I would encourage you to Google it and search that data. So after the serious discussion, guess what? There's a report on ransomware. Who's the best? Right? So this is from Halcyon, which came out with this report in March 2023. It's a serious discussion. Who's the best? Right? Because it's business. Right? And so how does this report rank various ransomwares, right? They rank who has the best ransomware as a service platform, how easy it is for the user to get your service, right? How user-friendly is the GUI of that platform which will be used, right? The attack volume. Would you attack 100 devices? You already attacked 1 million devices. What's the attack volume? Ransomware demand, because eventually it's money. What dollars are we discussing here? Right? So there's a ranking that's happening based on that. And then innovation. Right? So this report talks about, hey, who has the best platform development? Okay, you have a platform today, but are you going to improve your platform? Have you done that in the last 2-3 years? Right? And which are the industries that you're targeting? What is your economic model? How sure you are that once you ask for a ransomware, you get paid for it? So what is your economic model around it? How confident are your victims that if you pay the money, their data will be unencrypted? right? So it's a serious, serious discussion happening. So it's not only us who are protecting us, those attacks, it's also those attackers, they want to be ranked the best, right? So that's the magnitude of discussion happening around ransomware. Right, so I just wanted to share this data so that this helps you, when we start talking about what is various ways in which you can look at prevention, detection, and response against ransomware. So that will be our tabletop exercise next. Is this data relevant? Does this give you a context around ransomware? Right? I hope this is relevant to your industry, your business sector, whichever your company is in. Right? I hope this data was relevant. But please go ahead and Google search for Trellix Threat Landscape 2023 Q3 report. You'll get more data around this. Right? So now I'm going to hand it over to my colleagues, Avdot and Abhishek, who's going to run the tabletop exercise. They'll start with the anatomy of ransomware. Right? Because it's not that blue screen that comes at the end, right? With that lovely note that give me money, it starts somewhere else. So what's that? What are the phases? They're going to talk about that, and then we're going to engage in this tabletop activity, right? We're going to ask a lot of questions around what do you do at this particular phase, right? So we're going to go over there. I'm going to hand it over to Avdot and Abhishek. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Arvind. Am I audible? Okay, thank you so much. So this exercise is morely to interact with you all, to take the feedback that how the ransomware attack happens and what would be your reaction in all of those phases. So we have prepared 6 different phases of the ransomware attack. So there are actually 8, right from initial access, then reconnaissance, then data exfiltration, lateral movement, deploying the ransomware payload into your organization, and then encrypting your endpoint machines or server or whatever important data is, and then the recovery, okay? So we will be dissecting all these ransomware phases, and where we have set up a scenario for one of the organization where we will asking for your feedback, okay? So again, please be very open. There are no tests or anything. And yes, as I said, the agenda of this session is to engage you more, to take the feedback that would be your reaction in all of those ransomware phases. So there are generally 8 ransomware phases in the entire journey, okay? First is reconnaissance. This is where these hackers find their target, whom I'm targeting and what basic information I want to collect from that particular target, where they try to see that what are the loopholes, how can I get the initial access. This is where you get spam emails or the malicious link access, where silently the payload or malicious program is injected into your system or maybe any of your machine. Second phase, initial access. We all have clickers in the organization. Do you all know what clickers are? So they are the internal threats. I mean, internal threats means the employees, without thinking of anything, they just click the links, whichever lands on their email inbox. That's what we call them as a clickers, right? So one of such type of employees or user of our organization click on any of such type of malicious website or link which is landing on their email inbox. Because why am I referring it to email inbox? Because it has been seen that nearly 90% of the initial access is gained from the spam emails, right? So when you click it, the payload is injected, and this is where the hacker gets the access to your network. And then they try to exploit or try to execute the next phase, which is escalation and lateral movement, where they try to see that what are the other loopholes, what are the other systems which are carrying some open gates, some windows, where I can get the visibility of more and more data or more and more network structure, and silently they get spreaded across your network. So that's where we call it as lateral movement, because this transition is happening from system to system, system to server, server to server. It could be anything, right? So this phase is really, really important, and we should have right tools, right technologies to identify what type of lateral movements are happening in my organization. Next, data collection and exfiltration. This is where the hacker targets what is the important data for this organization, where I can do more and more damage to this particular network or this organization. Of course, everything is for money, so ultimately they know, they decide the value, that what ransom that I have to ask when I actually execute the ransomware or when I actually encrypt their data, the documents, whatever there on the endpoint systems or maybe on the server. Next phase, degradation of the recovery and security services. Now this hacker, they are already into the organization. They know what is the important data. They also know where they have to look at and what are the security services that that specific organization has implemented to secure from such type of high level or sophisticated attacks, right? So what do they do is, they first try to degrade or disable your security architecture or your security tools. Maybe they disable the Active Directory, maybe they disable their antivirus server. Those are the primary targets. They just cut the connection between the entire security systems or ecosystem which customers has developed into their network, and they try to make sure that there is no prevention or whatever rogue activity that I intend to do, I will take or I will extract the right information where I can go for a ransom or where I can see that there is a big amount of money coming from this specific customer. Next, ransomware deployment. So now they have already prepared the platform. What they want to do is deploy the ransom. They deploy the ransomware tool or infected file so that he can execute and he can start encrypting your data or important information so that they have something in hand so that they can inject their URL and ask for the ransom. That is another phase of your entire ransomware ecosystem or your entire ransomware attack chain. And the last is, of course, recovery and retrospective. So it has been observed in so many cases. Maybe you have removed the ransomware, you have removed the system or infected machine, you have isolated everything, but still, the presence is still there, okay? We don't know where that user is and how he is doing his activity. Maybe he has gained the access or privileged user access from some user. Maybe he has some footprint on the network. Maybe he has some footprint on the endpoint machine. So this is where they keep on searching that how more and more damage that I can do to this specific network or this specific infrastructure. So we are going to cover all these things in this workshop where we have selected 6 scenarios out of 8 of these ransomware phases. And we would like to take your feedback that how will you respond in those type of attacks, in those type of phases, right? So there are 6 different phases, as I said, scenarios which we have created on a different timeline for a same day, 9 a.m., 11 a.m., 1 p.m., and so on. So where your security ecosystem or your security team is getting different notification from different tools, and how would you react if you receive similar type of things, okay? So to set up this scenario, we have selected one organization which is fillingsafe.com. It is one of the organization which here we are trying to help them to see what is the best practices that we can apply so that similar thing never happens in future. So fillingsafe.com is one of the health industry or insurance company who specifically helps the mentally ill people and maintains or offers their services to all the people who are mentally ill. So they are the primary target for our ransomware hacker or our hacker who is trying to do some rogue activities into their network. So we'll start with the scenario 1. For that, I will call upon Mr. Abhishek to cover that part. and please be very open for any questions. Before that, before we start for first scenario, I would like to tell you one more thing. There is one booklet which is kept on your tables. So we have mentioned those scenarios which we are going to cover today, maybe not all 8, 6 of them. So if you feel that any key things that you would like to note it down there, so we have kept it for that so that you can write it over there and you can take it home so as a key pointers or maybe the next plan of action. So without wasting more time, I'll just take a pause and we'll hand it over to Abhishek. Over to Abhishek.
You'll have to click that. You want me to use
Take
it?
this.
Okay. So we just talked about all the different phases of the ransomware attack, right? So this is the initial access phase. So the actor has already done the recon. He has the list of all the email IDs where he wants to send that rogue email. And he has that initial access, right, where he's able to send emails to a lot of IDs that he has received from that recon exercise. Now, 9 a.m. is the time slot where we talk about an event where a normal, typical help desk organization receives calls about some kind of suspicious emails. Now, I'm sure most of your organizations would have some kind of email security deployed, and that email security solution would definitely be helping you with some kind of anti-spam protection, and I'm sure it would also help you with some kind of anti-phishing protection. So it would, I mean, you would, if you broadcast an email to a lot of people, the solution would be able to detect it as a phishing attempt, right? So if you look at this email, for example, you can see that there would be some telltale signs that this particular email is a fake email. But how does that happen? For example, let me ask everyone, so all of your organizations, do you have some kind of user awareness training for your users for, say, ransomware prevention or detection? Or looking at some kind of phishing emails? A question for you. Right? So, so typically you would have a solution that would prevent you or prevent that particular email, categorize it as a phishing attempt and highlight it. But then you'll still have users who would have received that email and that email may have passed through to their inbox. And then you would also have users who may have clicked on that attachment, right? So for example, if you look at this email, it looks very benign, right? It looks a genuine kind of email, it looks benign, and then there may be users who are not so trained on such kind of phishing emails, and they may have that urge to click on that attachment, right? And they did click on that attachment, right? Now, we have already done that. We have users who have clicked on that attachment. Consider your different network environments. So I'll ask you a few questions. So if you look at your workbooks, we have a dedicated section for this particular scenario, right? So let me ask each one of you, do you have some kind of threat intel service that your organization takes feeds from? Question for all of you. Okay. Do you have, as I said, I mean, most of you said that you already have an email security solution, kind of solution deployed in your network. So does that security solution only look at anti-spam, or is it also doing some kind of advanced threat analysis? Mostly spam, sir, right? So what if you have a solution that other than looking at spam can also look at some kind of suspicious URLs, can also look at some kind of suspicious attachments, probably some kind of zero-day threats, right? So I'm sure you would like to have these kind of solutions that can help you look at these kind of threats that may be targeted towards your environment, correct? What about anti-phishing? Have your organization subscribed to such feeds? You have, sir, yes. What about other organizations?
So I would like to ask one question here. So as Abhishek is speaking about anti-phishing, has anyone experienced the spam emails with the QR code on your email inboxes? Anyone? Anyone? Only wrong answers. Yes or no?
No wrong answers.
Yeah. How do you treat those things? How do you treat such type of spam emails? How do you do it? Because it is coming. Your security architecture, whatever fences that we have made around our network, they are not sufficient because still it is getting and landing into your email inboxes. Sorry, can we have a mic here, please?
If
Yes,
an
please.
spam email is received in my inbox, then I'm not clicking on that mail because I saw like that is a spam email.
So
Kind
that
of.
is your awareness. That is your awareness. So not all are tech savvy or knows that this could be a spamming email and I don't have to click on any of this. I just delete it. So that is your awareness. When we are talking about the normal users who are not so technical, that doesn't know that what this is. Maybe it looks very genuine. You look at this email, the way they have framed it, it is very genuine. Anybody can get confused and click on any of these emails, right? Again, for those QR code type of thing, anyone else who wants to share their feedback?
So we block the emails from the emails, the sender who is sending the email, the server who is sending the mails, and the link that is provided in the phishing mails.
Okay, so that is the manual activity you're performing. Really good. I'll tell you one more scenario. How do you treat the password protected attachments? So nowadays the sophistication level of these hackers, they are very smart. What do they do is, yes sir, please.
So we have integrated our email solution at our SOC at multiple levels. So whenever such malicious email we receive, that it's a SOC team analyze and they block their hash value or all these IOCs at different security platform. That is the solution we are adopting.
Oh, great. That is again a really good practice.
It's actually a good answer.
To build it.
Actually a good answer.
Yes, that is really a good practice and to build in or to make our SOC team so mature that they know how to react to such type of emails. But again, still they are landing onto your email inboxes. Okay. Again, the same question: how you are protecting the encrypted malicious program which are attached to your email? Yes, sir.
There are ways of doing it. So something like, for example, if it's a password protected file, usually what you would do is you would either say that, no password protected files are allowed in my environment. That's one.
Okay.
Another way is wherein you have a password protected document and attachment coming through to you, wherein you take the user to a specific portal wherein he feeds in the password that gets opened in a sandbox environment, and then from there you can click on it and do something
I
else.
really like that. Thank you so much for that amazing answer. Thank you so much, sir. So yes, there are few technologies, there are few tools which are available, few sandboxing environment who can take the actual email, they execute it in the sandbox environment and they do it. Now you will ask me, if it is a password protected, how will you open it? Okay, so yes, actually it is password protected, but password is given into the mail body. That's how the hackers are smart. They form an email, something similar to that, right? See, these are your Amazon gift voucher. If you want to have the redeem code, this is your password, this is your login ID, and this is the attachment where you will get your code to the Amazon gift voucher. Okay, of course they want to get into the network, right? So what we do, or few solutions, we have that option. That's why I'm telling you. So when Arvind will come on the stage, he will explain that how we cover it or how we do it. So we actually take that file or attachment into our virtual sandboxing. We scan the email. We try to match the words, something similar to login, password. We take those, we extract those keywords, and we open it by using those login credential into our virtual sandboxing environment. We open it, we execute it, and then we understand, we try to analyze the behavior, that what great damage that this specific attachment will do to the company network. And this is where we prevent, we take the action. The moment we realize that maybe it is doing some lateral movement or trying to connect to any other domain which is unknown or which is malicious, so we take the action. So that could be the automated thing or the tool who should have such type of inbuilt capabilities. Thank you so much for all your feedback and giving those answers.
Machine, and then we'll investigate. First, we'll isolate that machine so that it cannot move laterally.
Which means you will identify how many machines are impacted with such type of activity, right? That is one. That is one of the initial stage that you do to identify how many machines are impacted, and then the next stage. Maybe we can isolate them, where maybe we can run the antivirus scheduled scans to identify if there are any malicious programs are dormant. Maybe only 5 machines has reported this incident, right? Now here, as a SOC analyst, my curiosity is I want to know how many other machines are infected, right? At the same time, I will call or give the instruction to my operations team that run the scans or AV scans to all machines where I want to find out that this specific hash value or the malicious file program is dormant. I'm getting the notification because it was executed on that machine, right? There is a chance that there are multiple machines where the system is dormant, is not doing anything, but there is a presence, right? So that would be the second stage. Anyone else?
One question.
Sure.
Which is the point. So, as of now, you have only detected some of the suspicious activity.
Yes.
Generally, this is the process which is most difficult to automate from the renting perspective. Mostly this action will be done by people attempting it. Orchestrating is difficult at this stage.
Right.
In this scenario, how are you reading to the hash value or the identifying the file? Because we have still not reached there. We have just detected some activity, which is probably not automated, maybe say semi-automated, but suddenly we are reaching to the truth. So I'm not getting the link.
Yeah, I'll tell you. So these notifications we are getting on the same tool, okay? Which is of course where we have integrated our antivirus server, where we have integrated our Active Directory and other application server. When we have integrated the antivirus server, and of course if there is a EDR activity noticed anywhere, definitely we will go to get those information. So this information which I am linking to, that is again coming from SIM or SOC tool or solution which my SOC team is using for my internal SOC analysis or the incident analysis. And again, from there only I'm getting this information. Yeah, thank you so much.
In this particular case, we will look for the root cause analysis, like what particular script or file is doing such activity. Then we analyze like from where the file has came to the system. For example, the email, when the user clicked on the attachment, then we will look for the similar kind of emails in our environment, like how many emails are delivered to the end users. And we will look all the emails, then we will check how many clicks or like clicks are on that particular hash and they are in our environment. We will ban the hash to contain the issue. Then we will take the remediation actions.
Thank you so much for that comprehensive answer, a very good answer. So you explained the entire scenario, or what would our SOC team or SIM team do if they are finding similar type of events. Thank you so much for that. Anyone else who want to share their feedback? Yes, please.
Before doing that process, I just find out in my AD server how many login attempts will happen for that, because if this is a lateral movement, then the person will try to log in some other systems also. So in my AD server, I will check how many successful or failed events, failed attempts will happen, because by that I can find out how many systems is infected, and I can isolate that systems from my network. And after that, I will process all these.
That's a really good way to identify and pinpoint to the suspicious login attempts and what are the lateral movements which are happening. So that is a really good answer. I'd really like to give you something for this. So Krishna is arranging, and the gift is on way to you. Thank you so much for that. And anyone else, anything else that you want to share, that how would we treat? So of course you have SIM team, SOC team. We are also getting some feedback we will isolate the machine, but here again, we are concentrating and looking only at the endpoint area. Nobody thinks about that, is there any data exfiltration attempt, or how we are doing it? Is the presence available also on the network? What would you do if you are getting similar type of footprints from the network anti-APT type of solutions as well? What would be your reaction to that?
In this scenario, since some binaries are being executed, so the particular user basically means on which machine the binary has been executed, we have to make sure that particular user is not having the access, means we can revoke the access for that particular user, so that that user cannot be used to run binaries on other machines.
Yeah, that's a really good analysis.
Yeah.
I think the similar, what she said, thank you so much for that. So, yeah, please.
We would also, we would also like to see whether it has been able to try to make any, CNC connection outside, and then, what are the what are the destination IPs. So we would analyze those IPs, see whether those are in the blacklisted IPs or not, and if not, we can add it. So it's basically making sure that this particular event does not even happen in the future also.
Exactly. I really like that. So we will also look at when these type of connections are happening, maybe going out of our organization, trying to connect to external domain, what exploits that this user or this hacker is using to get that connection established, right? So thank you so much for all that feedback and sharing your suggestion that how would you react in such type of events and scenarios. So
I
let's
think
move to
what we can also highlight is what you talked about, right? That connectivity to the outside CNC domains. So what if you had a solution that can do this in real time, right? So for example, our solution can actually get an internet link and actually see in real time what that binary is trying to connect to, right? So we can give you a solution that can have a dirty link kind of thing, and that particular solution can, one is analyze it in a sandbox and also allow it to go outside. That actually helps you in terms of, for example, if you have domain generators somewhere outside, right? And you want to crack that domain generator, block that domain generator, then that is when you use these kind of dirty link scenarios, right? So moving on to the next section. So this is the timeline when you have a confirmed report of data leakage, right? So there are some tweets that are ongoing, and you have some passwords, username and passwords from your organization that is now tweeted, is in the public domain. First question, how would you respond to this kind of scenario? Yes, please. Let him get the mic. Thank you.
So we should look for the privilege account first, like
Okay.
which were the privilege account whose
Right.
credentials are being tweeted or anything.
Right.
We should try to protect them first, because those are the data which can really impact the reputation of the company. So after that, we should go on to check the others account.
Correct. Good answer. Good answer. So I think that's a great step towards the right direction. Anything else? Yeah, please. Sir, I'll just wait for the mic to come. Can you hand over the mic? Acha, okay.
So there are two things to say right now. If the data has already come to the public platform, that means we are already too late. So before that, we should be actually monitoring the dark web, because the data first goes to the dark web and then the things goes to the public platform. So I think dark web monitoring is something that should be done and should be proactively done.
Great answer. Actually a great answer, because that is an important aspect from the overall health or overall cybersecurity posture perspective. Anything else? So you want to say something? Yes.
Yeah, so basically if we get to know that our credential has been compromised, so in that case what we immediately do, we'll ask all all the resources to change the password immediately.
Right.
Right.
Right. So that's actually also a good approach.
So I was saying there were a couple of other hands raised in that area. Can we have a mic there, please? Yeah. It's on.
So we know that the data has been leaked or someone has notified us. In this case, our identification or the work we had done in previous, like we know which is our risk, more risk data, which is our more confidential, more precious data, I would say.
Right.
If we have already identified, then we can actually analyze the risk that we would have. We might not be sure what kind of data they have posted.
Correct.
Because they have not posted that they have leaked some of our product based or some of our strategies.
Right.
So identification of data, and then we can analyze the risk. Then we can invoke a conversation with the stakeholders.
Right.
That this is the scenario we have, this kind of data we have.
Right.
Then that, I would say disaster recovery plan should be invoked at the same time.
That's
If
actually a
something
good
has
approach.
been
That's actually a good approach.
I really like that answer because, yes, of course, anybody can put that, hey, you have been hacked, but the validation is equally important. Have they really got our data? Whatever they are claiming, these bad actors, do they actually have our data? Of course, with that note, they send some information about your users. These are your email addresses. These are your password. But yeah, with that, we also need to check that how deep that they have went and how important data, what level of important data they have captured. I really like that answer.
Yeah. So that actually also brings into play, from a technology standpoint, brings into play things like whether you have an identity and access management policy in place, whether you have some kind of rights management thing in place, right? So that helps you quickly identify what users with what privileges can create what kind of damage to the organization, right? So sir, you were saying something.
Many of the points are already covered, but I would still, at the cost of repetition, just, because it has to be a very systematic approach.
Right.
In a sequential manner. In case of any such leak, there are 3 things which are required to be done. First step has to be plug the holes.
Yes.
Right. So whatever privilege or critical accounts are there, they need to be blocked immediately.
Right.
Right. So that is the plugging the holes.
Right.
Second is you need to analyze what is lost already. So you need to scan out of all those user IDs and passwords, which one have been accessed
right
in an unauthorized way from outside.
Correct.
And what kind of data has already gone out.
Right.
Okay. So that analysis will give you the risk.
Right.
What you have lost. And accordingly, you can initiate protocols and steps to contain that situation. In
Correct.
case some critical data is lost, you need to do something, whatever, you have already made a SOP on that.
Right.
Okay. And so that would be the second step.
Right.
And third would be, which is the party to whom you have lost that data.
Correct.
Like dark web analytics, that needs to be initiated, whether it is up for sale on the dark web, that's one. In case the attack was somebody who was the direct beneficiary, he's got the data.
That's correct.
And who's that party? So that IP profiling, the data has gone to which particular IPs. Right. That would be the third step. Because that will also give more clarity on what kind of risks you are exposed to.
Right.
Because of that data loss.
Right.
So you can brace for that kind of scenario. Whether it is a ransomware, whether it is some kind of, that data is going to be used to bring more attacks.
Correct.
Right.
That's correct.
So that analytics has to happen.
Right.
For you to create, prepare a comprehensive response. Fourth would be to use this situation as a honeypot.
Yes.
You block all the user IDs and passwords which are critical, but keep some alive.
Right.
And use them for sandboxing.
Yes.
When the attack comes, further attack comes.
That's a great answer. So that's actually a great
Thank you
answer.
so much. Yes, sir. Please.
Just take 30 seconds because most of the stuff has been said.
Yeah.
So it will depend, every organization will have their approach to, because by this time you are known, like you already attacked, it's already in public domain. So first thing, like every organization should have a, response mechanism. But few things, like you have to activate each and every arms of your organization, like legal,
your compliance team, your communication team, how you are interacting with your outside world.
Yeah.
That is very important in handling this particular disaster. So you have to also communicate to your regulator. So all these arms should be active to restore your reputation, your data in the organization. That's a very important aspect to be taken care of.
That's actually
Thank you so much
good answer.
for that feedback, sir. Thank you so much.
But we missed out on one technology aspect, right? So we talked about data exfiltration. So the first technology that comes to our mind is data loss prevention, right? So do we have such kind of technologies deployed? Should also be, and do we have the right kind of policies deployed on those tools which are integrated with our mailing solution, right? So that is one technology that we need to ensure is in place to at least have some kind of protection against any kind of data exfiltration. Correct? So,
So there were some questions which is, yeah, please.
At this point of time, I think you're not aware that how much data has been lost.
Correct.
Right.
So we should concentrate on backups and encryption as well.
Yes.
Really good
so
suggestion.
That might,
That is, that is one of the answers that I was looking for.
Yeah.
So that is really good answer, and I think it is coming in next phase.
Correct.
So definitely I owe you something. So yes, thank you so much for that. Yes, backup is really, really important, and how you do it is again a very important thing. So by this stage, we know that we are just trying to map the dots, right? We saw something on my SIM solution, then we saw something such type of public facing images with my company brand name, the fillingsafe.com, where this hacker is claiming that yes, of course, there is some data, some important information that I have got, right? So in next phase, here again we are going to see that how we will react when there are when we are receiving the notification, the indication for the similar attack chain or maybe for the same attack chain. Yes, sir.
I'll give you my mic.
Okay. Now the scenario which you have built up is primarily where the data is getting uploaded, lost. Okay.
Yes.
What we are not catering for in this scenario is a person who is going for a ransomware. He may be exfiltrating only a limited amount of data and rest he is encrypting.
Mm-hmm.
Data loss prevention systems, if the data which is already encrypted is being uploaded and into a small amount which he just needs to bring that he is okay, we just want to bring that, yes, I am got something which is relevant. Data loss prevention systems will not detect it. What we are missing out here is the moment a ransomware attack is happening, the process of encryption itself of your drives, your computer memory goes off the roof. Okay, you try to encrypt your one hard disk, say 1 TB, it takes time. It cannot be encrypted on the fly that you just passed out. So what we are missing here is actually the monitoring of a computer and resource. If you monitor that, a sudden jump on your thing, that gives you indication that something going on wrong with your systems. Yeah. That gives a first level indication.
That could be one of the indicators from the analysis point of view. I really like that suggestion, sir. Thank you so much.
I think you were already covering that in the next.
Yes. So why Abhishek? Yes, sir.
And when you find like when someone published like your data is leaked, so one of the response, like you just go to your business team and observe like what is the impact of actual leaked data.
Yes.
And what is the value of
the money? Exactly.
In terms of money. Yes. And then your response, communication plan, your everything will go based on that money.
Exactly. Everything boils down to money. I want to know that how much money I'm losing if this data gets leaked. Okay. I really like that suggestion, sir. Thank you so much for that. Yes, sir.
When it's already reported, you are saying that is in the market,
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's enough time that you also start engaging your forensic service provider. If you have a retainer agreement in place, then put the forensic service provider in place, and so that you also see the footprints of how the data leaked, because it's not possible that, if once the data is leaked, he would not try again, because unless you are not plug your holes.
Correct.
So it's very important that how the the data has moved out. The most important part is with regards to the plugging of the holes. So the forensic service provider has to also, come into play at that point of time, and having a right to retain agreement would also play. So the payloads which have exited would also really help. The payloads will definitely have some exfiltration mechanism through which they have gone. So I think once you know the payload, how the payload has moved, so I think that those footprints are very, very important for us to analyze.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. So here, so far, we are discussing about different scenarios, and I keep on hearing different technologies which you are using and how you can utilize it at its full capacity to check what's going wrong, right? That's what the agenda for this entire exercise is, that we want to know that what would be your reaction, what would you do in such type of scenario, and react on those type of things. Thank you so much for that. Let's move to the next scenario. 2:30 p.m. Here I have a solid proof where I'm getting the notifications from my users. They are telling me that, hey, there are some encrypted files which I'm finding on my machine. What should I do? I'm not able to access those important files. They are all encrypted with .conti. So that is a very latest ransomware, which is really famous. And we had used these scenarios in one of our event, I think that was in Europe, where we had prepared the similar session, and we took the feedback from all our security practitioners which we are connected to. So again, what will be your reaction in this type of thing? So half of the part is already covered. I mean, we already said that yes, you will see how many machines are reporting such type of ransomware attack and how many users are impacted with these type of notifications, right? But yeah, any other suggestion that you would like to make here which we have missing? Yes, sir, please.
Yes.
RSA, exactly. Can I have mic on this table, please? So my timer is clicking. No, but I'll definitely cover your part, sir. Please.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, so I think all of us spoke about different machines getting impacted and things, but at this juncture, I think one of the critical component is, as I see, is identifying the patient zero.
Yeah.
To track the footprints, what was the entry point, what was the cause for it, and obviously, what is the future preventive action. That's one part of it. The second is obviously backup, which we spoke in the earlier scenario. But I think the critical part of the backup is the backups. Is it available for everyone? Is it tested?
Yeah.
Because many times, at least what I have found out in my experience, the backups may be there, but pretty old. Not everything is in there, or they're not tested, and that when we really need it, it's not available. So,
right.
So that's validity of the backup, testing of it, identifying patient zero, and any commonalities in the processes through EDR. I think some of those things definitely I would kind of think.
Thank you so much for that. I really like that. Due to time constraints, sorry, I'm taking a pause here because I have to cover some other things. So that was the last question which I was taking for this particular scenario. Thank you, and extremely sorry for that. Okay.
I'll take
We'll move to the next part.
Next one. Okay. All right. So this is when the outbreak has happened, right? So this is when you have a successful attack that may have happened in the organization and is now reported as well. So we talked about a lot of things, right? And most of those things, I mean, right, on my first slide, I told you that the best way to prevent a ransomware breach is if you're able to contain it during the recon or the initial access phase. Right? The moment it gets inside, the moment it starts escalating its privileges, that is when the problems actually arise. Now, if we are here, right, if we are here, God forbid we reach this stage, now what do we do, right? Do we have an incident response framework in place? Do we have a forensics team in place? Do we have capabilities on our endpoints where they may be able to roll back, right? So any damage that may have been caused by that ransomware, does my endpoint security solution has a capability to roll back that damage, right? Do I have the capability to quarantine or isolate that endpoint or that group of endpoints, right? We talked about multiple, so lateral movement means I may have more than 1, 5, 10 machines that may have been impacted. So can I quarantine all those machines? Can I quarantine my backups, right? That is also important, right? You may want to quarantine that backup to a location where no user has access, because deleting or corrupting the backup is also a key stage of the entire ransomware life cycle. So do I have those kind of IR capabilities in place or forensics capabilities in place, right? So the importance here is in terms of understanding how you investigate, right? How you contain, and then how you eradicate. So investigation, containment, and then eradication of any traces that may be prevalent inside the network. So I think from the workshop perspective, it was a great interactive workshop in terms of different technologies, in terms of different viewpoints, how we protect against a ransomware kind of outbreak. So we'll stop it here. I think,
so this was our last scenario, where we wanted you all to talk more and more, and I think we have got enough feedback and a really good suggestion from one of the best security practitioners which are there in this room. So thank you so much for that. So I will call upon a stage Arvind again, so that he will help us out to understand our security architecture or our product architecture, that how.
I have a very small question.
Yes, sir.
Because now you will go for a resolution part and your service. So, because what we discussed, that all these security solutions and scenario to tackle that. So, we know certain organization who have excellent email security solution. They have a very well established SOC center also. Very good IT team. They have a privileged access management to monitor our PowerShell commands. Despite all these things, they were breached and successful ransomware deployed. So through your research data, can you come up with like how all these controls got failed in a one go?
Let me take that.
Please.
I'll pass that question
and thank
to
you for
Arvind.
asking that question. It helps me in my part of the session. And I would like to thank Abhishek and Abdul.
Thank you all. Thank you so much.
you. And thanks for your very engaging session, very engaging discussion. I was listening to all of it. Thank you for this. So let me start with this. Abhishek and Abdul talked about a lot of solutions. Somebody can name what all solutions did they talk about? Yeah, try, please.
We spoke about email security.
Yes.
We spoke about EDR.
Okay. DLP. Data backups.
Identity solutions.
Identity. Rights management. Sandbox. Sorry. Forensics. Incident response. Yes. Dark web monitoring. So in short, they told you there's no silver bullet. That's what they told you, right? There's no silver bullet. You're looking for one solution which will make your life easy. The answer is no, not possible. You can have one platform, but not one solution. There's a difference between a platform and a solution, right? So platform would give you visibility. A platform would give you your quick alarms. Hey, something has gone wrong, right? But solution is which is eventually going to do the detection or the prevention, right? So somebody might scream, hey, there's a fire here, but he didn't start the fire. Not is gonna stop it, right? So there's a difference between platform and a solution. So where does Trellix comes in, right? So we've talked about ransomware gangs. So where does Team Trellix get involved, right? So we talked about a lot of these things. When Abhishek and Abdul were talking about, they were talking about, when you get a phishing link, what solution can get into action, right? When you click on a URL, what can get into? So when you click on a particular URL, right? Abdul call them clickers, right? That's the internal. So the SecOps team call it clickers, right? So when they say hey, one user keeps on generating a lot of alerts, so the SecOps call them clickers, right? So that's the internal terminology, right? Your web protection solutions, proxies and all that would come into picture. Your endpoint, EPP, EDRs and all that would come into picture, right? When a malware is getting downloaded, or it's a fileless attack, right? Something happening within the memory itself, right? So if something is happening within the memory, it could be your endpoint or it could be network, depending. Fileless, right? Somebody's talking to command and control, right? That's another phase, right? We talked about lateral movements. Okay, so we've talked about this, but let's summarize. What are the ransomware guys looking for? Why are they doing this? What's your money? One outcome. What is the other outcome? Popularity. What are the other motivators? Sorry? Yes. What else? Data. Confidential data. What else? Reputational damage. What else? There's a new thing that we keep on missing. What's the first server that gets attacked the moment a ransomware gets into your infrastructure? Which is the first server that they target? AD. Who gave their answer? Good answer. They all go for the AD. Because the first thing, how did ransomware as a service become a service? When they got your credentials. That's how they started selling as a service. Right? Once they have the credential, they can do whatever they want. Right? So there was a very good, I don't know whether I should use the word good or not, but there was a very well-known ransomware who became a ransomware as a service. The BFSI fraternity would know about it. The name was Emotet. 15 or 18 years back, it started as a malware, then it became ransomware, and now it's a ransomware as a service. What it does is, the moment it gets into your infrastructure, it says, hey, I'm already here. Anybody else wants to join? That's Emotet in short. Right? So how do they do that? They need to have your credentials. So that's what they're looking for when they do lateral movement, right? They get the credentials, right? So your endpoint security would come into picture. We talked about data, right? If you're looking for what if your 5 servers got compromised or 5 endpoints got compromised? Only one of them had critical data. Would that change the severity of the threat? Right? If 5 of them were all critical, compared to 1 is critical, that's all, who cares? We don't have a backup, we don't need to recover it, just format, bring it back. The severity changes. So if you implemented DLP, what does that do? It helps you prioritize. So it might not be able to prevent all the time, but it might be able to prioritize. Hey, these 4 machines, just format, bring them back, start your business again. But one of them had critical data, right? Encryption, right? Endpoint security should be able to prevent when your data is getting encrypted, right? Your critical data. And finally, your recovery and so on. To pay or not to pay is the question nowadays, right? Right? That's the biggest question, to pay or not to pay, right? How many, just show of hands, we'll not have a discussion, but show of hands, how many should say, if your data is lost, it's impacting the credibility of the company and all that, blah, blah, blah. So severity is very, very high in this. Should you pay? How many are okay with paying? What's the worst thing happens the moment you pay? What's the worst thing happens the moment you pay a ransomware gag? You paint a target on your back. This guy pays. Let's go again. Let's go. So that's why we keep on hearing that if you got compromised once, there's a very high chance that you'll get compromised again. Please. Yes. 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 Yes.
So if India was a target higher than the USA, normally people would like to target those who pays.
Yes.
So it's interesting that maybe then the Indians pay really well.
Okay. So context, right? Because when you do a Google search for Trellix threat landscape, we bring this report every quarter. Okay, so this was only Q2, Q3. So Q1, some other country might be number 1, Q2, somebody else, this is Q3, right? So just context to the report, first of all, right, to answer the question. Sorry about this. So, secondly, I think the attackers, the 2 parts, again, the way India is getting attacked. Number one is, I think we're all friends here, right? We know how our infrastructure is today from a protection perspective. Where are we on the maturity curve, right? The attackers also know it. So if there is an ease, right, in which you can be successful, you'll probably target that more as well. Secondly, we are a growing economy. There's a higher chance, number one, to be successful. There's a higher chance we'll be successful for a target who might pay. So India is a huge motivator right now, right? India is a huge motivator for those runs. And I don't see this trend coming down anytime soon because we are on a good path from economy perspective. So I don't see that coming down. Yes, please.
The question is that usually when people buy cyber insurance.
Yes, please.
When people buy cyber insurance,
yes,
right?
Please.
All around the world. I'm not talking just about India. Okay. So usually they use it also to pay off for ransomware. All right. So what are your comments on that?
So sorry, I missed the first part. When
people buy cyber insurance,
cyber
right?
insurance. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
okay. Every organization, their own take on it, right? So I'm nobody to take this decision for the organization. But I'll give you another example. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question. I'll give you an example. I was talking to another customer that what do they do? So they have this, and this is now becoming more common, right? So a place where the SOC is much more mature, this becomes very, very common. They engage with the ransomware gang. They engage, they start discussing. So they basically are buying time before making a decision to pay or not to pay. They buy time, number one, how sure, Mr. Ransomware guy, how sure are you that the key that you'll give me will decrypt my endpoints? So if I pay you, am I going to get my data back, right? So they start engaging with them. Then the gang says, okay, you take one key and you decrypt one endpoint. See, it works. Now pay me something. So they start engaging so that they have time, so that their insurance guys can eventually say, what did they lose? Was it worth protecting? Or it's okay if we lost it. We take that as a risk. We take that as a bump in the journey, but we continue. So to reach that decision, first of all, you need to buy a lot of time. So start engaging. That's another way. Yes, please.
Generally, what data shows as of now, like the cyber insurance is more helpful to recover money for the other expenses than this ransom.
Yes.
Like that for investigation part, some kind of to pay in a regulatory fines,
yes,
or any legal fees. It's more useful in that area rather than paying a ransom. Because you rightly said, like organizations start discussing to buy the time to finalize like what to do, how to handle that. That's the more important.
True, true, absolutely. Thank you so much for this. That's actually a good answer. So yeah, and finally, and as I said earlier as well, the moment you start paying, you're putting a target on your back. You need to be sure if you want to be in that bucket, right? So that's very, very important. So let me move on, right? So we've talked about all these solutions, and Trellix have enough. We don't have enough time to discuss all this. But what I'm gonna request is, please come to our booth tomorrow and day after. We got demos ready for that. So we had a choice. Do we get into a workshop mode? Do we get into a demo mode in this session today? We went for the workshop mode, right? But demos are ready, but demos are in our booths. So I would request, please come to our booths. We're gonna have a lot of discussion here. There are few things that I can quickly talk about, right? Rollback remediation, because we've been talking about this encryption of the endpoint, detecting the ransomwares and all that, right? So our endpoint security, this is part of our endpoint security, it comes bundled, no additional cost, blah, 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 right? It comes with the solution itself. So there's a machine learning part to endpoints right now, right? So how does machine learning work? That there would be something which starts executing, and we are monitoring that execution, and somewhere in that execution we say, hey, this activity is bad. Let's stop it there and then. But before we stop it, that execution might have created some registry entries, might have created some more, child processes, might have created some files, blah, 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 right? It might have made some changes on the hard disk. So when we block that bad behavior, there might be still some residual files on the endpoint. So rollback remediation, what it does is, the moment we stop that particular process, we roll back all the changes that that malicious file did. How we do it? Please come to our booth. It's a proprietary solution that we have. Please come to our booth. We're going to talk about that. And then, again, because of time, I'm going to talk about a little bit about this. Give me probably 30 seconds on this, and then we move on. Whatever solution you buy, right, in your journey to prevent, detect ransomware. It could be Trellix, it could be non-Trellix. Whatever solutions you buy, you eventually need a single platform to give you visibility, right? Oh, my X firewall said this, my X IPS said this, my Y endpoint said this, blah, blah, blah. Different vendors all across, because you've already invested. Your company is already running, right? So you're already invested in a lot of solutions. Either you set up skill set in your SecOps, for running all the solutions, or you have a platform which can give you quick visibility, irrespective of which vendor you're using. That's where our XDR comes in. XDR is SaaS. It's a service. All your sensors, so your endpoints, your firewalls, web gateway, blah, 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 right? Whatever you've already invested in, they all becomes our eyes and ears. They are our sensors, and they are giving us information. They are giving us event data, telemetry of what is happening within your organization. And quickly doing an analysis is saying whether that's malicious or not.
Okay, you mean that we have to integrate our...
Yes, your existing investments. Good question. If you need very, very strong, and see, what does cloud give you? Cloud gives you... Absolutely, absolutely. So, absolutely. Yeah, so answering your question, right? Any solution, not only XDR, you talk about EDRs, you talk about any SIMs nowadays are in SaaS. What does SaaS provide you? So SaaS provides you compute, a very, very flexible compute, a compute that can be shared across multiple customers. So it becomes much more cost effective. If you want to have that on-prem, nobody stops you. You can have on-prem EDRs. We got an EDR on-prem which does forensics, and the kind of forensics that we do on endpoint, nobody else does. We do a very advanced forensics on-prem. It needs compute power. You invest in compute, it's okay. You don't invest in compute, please go to SaaS. Right? There is already compute over there. It's a shared compute. Anybody can use it. Right? I hope that gives you the answer. Right? And so, and coming back to, I'm going to stick to XDR a little bit. Whatever you eventually look for, XDR, next generation SIM, blah, blah, blah. Whatever you're looking for, the main outcomes that you would look for are, number one, you have a visibility of your current security posture. Right? Whatever the gaps are, whatever the vulnerabilities are, blah, blah, blah. Whatever it is, you have the visibility to it so that you can close those gaps. Your mean time to detection comes down drastically. What's an average time to detection for a ransomware or any malware? What have you heard? 6 months? 3 months? Hey, I wish it was half an hour. Life would be much easier. Every CISO would love that life when it's 30 minutes. Right? So I see a lot of SLAs and they say we need resolution in 4 hours. Then we need to create probably some kind of a holy place there. Should be. I wish. Right? And let me put that in a very different way. What's an average lifespan or a term span for a CISO in an organization? So there was a survey done in America a couple of years back. It's 1.5 years. What's the average tenure of a CEO? Same report, 8 years. CISO's life is not easy. CISO CISO's life is not easy. We all are wishing for a lot of things. We can kick the CISO tomorrow and say, hey, you're not good enough. But that is not an easy role. That's not an easy job. That's not an easy life. Another funny question. When does most of the ransomware attacks start? A new ransomware has come out. When do they come out most often? Which day of the week? Friday. You remember? Who remembers WannaCry? Everybody cried when WannaCry happened, right? Friday evening, right? That's a life of cybersecurity. Say, we don't get good people in cybersecurity because people fear that their weekend will get ruined. That's why we don't get good people in cybersecurity. Okay, coming back to this, right? So that's my this point, right? Empower your talent so that they don't run away on a Friday evening, right? And ransomware protection detection is a journey, right? Nobody should expect that you buy a particular thing or you buy everything on day 0, right? That's the right strategy. Please don't do that, right? When we go and talk to our customers of buying XDR, we say you buy XDR, but you create a journey of what all things you'll integrate with XDR. So that you have a certain milestone you'll achieve in first 6 months, then you have a certain milestone that you achieve in 12 months, and so on. But if you buy everything together and say integrate and let's see what happens, it doesn't happen, right? So have a journey, and what we do in Trellix is, yes, we've got a lot of solutions, but we have our own consultancy services, which will, I don't want you to read all this, too much data, but what I want to tell you is, we will sit with you on use cases. We'll talk about use cases, right? So our consultancy services team will come to you, sit with your organization, sit with your team, understand the use cases you're looking for, understand the use cases you already have addressed, so that we know where you are on this journey. We map this journey and say, this is where you are. Like, I was talking to another customer, he said, I do not have EDR, should I buy XDR? Right? So my answer to them was, endpoint gives 40% of event data in a SecOps, right? Your same XDR. It gives 40% data. If you do not have an EDR, who will give that data? So first you implement EDR for the next 6 months. Once you have the data, then buy XDR. Implement first solution, then second. Map a journey for yourself, right? So this is where I'm going to stop. I hope our session was some fruitful, right? You got something out of our session today, but this doesn't stop. Please, you've seen my last 2 slides, there are enough data that we want to talk about, there are enough things that we want to talk about, enough demos that we have for you. Please come and meet us in our booth. I will invite Abhishek and Abdul again, right? So Manish is our SE director, right? So he would be here as well, right? Please come to our booth, and whatever questions you have that we won't be able to answer now, please come to our booth and ask us all the questions. So I'm going to open up this to Q&A. Any questions?
One question.
Please.
So the question is that, sorry, a ransomware attack, let's say, happens after deploying all these solutions. Then what is the sit rep you get? Walking through step by step with the ransomware, helping them, hand-holding them and guiding them through all the solutions. Yeah.
So as even the insurance guys would talk, you should have an IR service numbers on your speed dial, right? We can also provide IR service. Some IR guy who is there on the speed dial of a CISO, please call them up immediately. Let them step into your infrastructure immediately. Because the early an IR team gets engaged, the early your organization would be able to scope the threat and start preventing it. Because when you see an attack, you're already under an attack. It's not the last screen that Abhishek showed, that red screen that he showed, that's not the end of the journey from a ransomware. That's the first probably endpoint or 5th endpoint. There could be 20 more. So get your IR team involved really early so that they can step in, they can start securing your infrastructure, right?
Achha, you were mentioning about that SaaS versus on-premise.
Yes.
One part is the flexible compute.
Yes.
Yes. Definitely. Are there any? Because this point always keeps coming in discussions.
Good question.
Whether we should go for SaaS versus on-premise.
Good question.
Rather, we are debating it even now in our organization, whether it should be
Please
SaaS.
come to our booth. That's my request. Because this is a big answer. Every organization would look at it from a different perspective because different organizations are following different compliances and so on. Right? So one answer for everyone? No.
Okay.
Right? So please come to our booth. Let's have a discussion tomorrow and day after. Our booth is setting up. I think it's booth number 43, I believe. Right? Please come and meet us over there.
Sure. Thank you.
So when you look at the Gartner's SecOp hype cycle, the number 1, number 2 solutions are XDR and breach attack simulator, right? We provide XDR. We are not into breach attack simulation, but we have a service around breach attack simulation. We don't have a product. Okay.
So
you had a last question? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Will you be able to get a demo of the advanced sandbox?
Please come to our booth.
And is like the reason why I'm asking for a demo is like if there's any file that is platform independent, will you be able to get a view?
Please come to our booth. We want that discussion. Okay. We're looking forward to that discussion.
Thank you.
Please. Okay. Thank you so much, and thank you for your time. Thank you.
I would like, Arvind, we still have a question. Just one. Please go.
Yeah, please. Sorry.
So my question is, it might not be relevant to ransomware.
Please.
I want to know if there is any solution or any practice one can do to identify assets, because most of the times I'm a SOC analyst, worked in a couple of companies. Most of them, they do not know what they have.
Yes.
Then how we are going to protect it?
Yes. So not only asset management, but even when you start your data protection project, first of all, you have to identify where the data is and what kind of classification you want to put on that data. You need to find the right data owners, have a discussion, and then do it. So yes, a lot of manual work would be required over there because you need to find asset owners or data owners, right? And we also provide the service. So when
that
we do,
is under Trellix.
yes. So we also provide service where we can help you, help the organization handle with the business owners or the data owners and identify that.
Okay.
Yeah. But a lot of manual work required in that. Okay. Thank you for the question. Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for that comprehensive session, Team Trellix. And I hope all of you enjoy the remaining sessions in AISS. Please do attend tomorrow and day after as well. So I'm Sriram, Dr. Sriram Birudola. I'm signing off. Thank you all. Hope you had a good learning session.